Warning, viewers' discretion is advised as this may contain mature or triggering content. Title: Loving Who, Part 3. The end of Amy's day was not going exactly how she had hoped. Vince and her sat in silence for a moment before he finally spoke up. "Why didn't you tell me you were going to apply for Alvco?" She brushed some hair from her face. "Well, I wanted it to be a surprise. I mean, it wasn't really guaranteed if I'd be hired on, because, you know me, I was going to be upfront about our relationship." She hadn't expected the slight scowl on his face. "Babe, I really didn't think it was going to be a big deal. I'm sorry. If you don't want me working with you, then I'll inform them of that." Vince shook his head, his expression softening. "No." He ran his hands over his face. "I'm sorry, it's not like that. I love the idea, I just—" She stood, moving to his side, and began massaging his shoulders. "What's bothering you?" Vince leaned into her touch. He couldn't find it in him to tell her he was worried about Richard and Tyler. It'd make him seem like he didn't trust her, and he did. Even when she pulled long evenings and didn't return until early morning, he still trusted her. "I don't know. Sorry for this, Amy." She leaned into him, hugging him. "It's fine. I know you've been under a lot of stress. Besides, I think I have an inkling of why you're so bothered." "Oh? What is that?" She hung onto his shoulders with a smile. "Because of that one man. Richard, was it? Yes, him. Trust me, I saw how his eyes roamed my body." Vince let out a groan. "He's a playboy. Please do your best to ignore him, though I have a feeling he won't be leaving you alone." Amy nodded. "If he gives me too many issues, I'll report him to Mr. Malco. I'm not there to flirt, but work. Besides, if I were to flirt with anyone, it'd be you." She leaned in, kissing his cheek. "Stop worrying. You do remember I know how to defend myself, right?" Vince huffed. "Yes, sorry. You're amazing and I'm plain." She frowned slightly. "What have I told you about that?" She flicked his nose softly. "You are just as amazing as I am. You aren't plain, you are adorable." Her words brought out a chuckle. "You know most men don't like being referred to as adorable, right?" She gave him a cheeky grin. "Well, you are handsome to a degree, but I'm sure most women would refer to you as the cute type. Your eyes are soft, and while you're in shape, your features aren't sharp. They hold a sort of softness in them. So don't blame me for you being my adorable puppy." Despite the rough start to their evening, the two went out for dinner, then watched a movie before heading home, where they curled up on the sofa to watch TV. They'd been dating since high school, and even with a few rough patches, they never stayed mad at each other for long. Once they'd hit 25, they started living together, mainly because they had been so busy their time together had dwindled. It was a bold move, but one they hadn't regretted. It turned out to be the perfect choice. They could rant to each other about life while cuddled up together watching TV. It had become something of a tradition for them. Now that they worked together, there was a chance a few issues could arise, but Amy wasn't worried about that. She was sure, or at least hoped, Vince wouldn't be too worried either, after their talk. She snuggled closer to him. "I love you, Vince." He let out a breathy chuckle as he kissed her head. "I love you too, Amy." She wasn't sure when they'd fallen asleep curled up on the sofa, but she certainly felt it. "Ow, ow." She groaned, stretching. Vince had already gotten up. "Breakfast is ready. Oh, and I made our lunches. Next time, let's make sure we move to bed. My neck is killing me." Amy nodded. "Yeah, my back isn't happy either," she said with a groan. Vince had always been a morning person, while she took a few minutes to get herself motivated for the day. The smell of pancakes, bacon, and eggs helped, though. She rubbed her eyes as she sat down at the table. "You spoil me." He walked over, setting down her plate, kissing her cheek. "You deserve every bit of it. Do you want water or orange juice?" Amy thought about it for a moment. "Water. Orange juice doesn't mix well with syrup," she stated as she poured a healthy amount of the sweet goodness over her buttery pancakes. She dug in, the first bite hitting her tongue and making her groan. "So good. I've been blessed with your cooking for so long, I don't think I could make it if you left me." He chuckled. "Good thing I don't plan to go anywhere." They finished up breakfast, getting cleaned up and ready to leave. Vince left first, while Amy gathered everything she needed for her first official day. It wasn't like she didn't want to ride with him, simply the fact she wanted to make sure everything was perfect. A few hours later, Amy stood in a room with all the employees gathered, the new faces on one side while the others watched. They had one by one introduced themselves, along with the reasons they were hired. Everything went smoothly. There were those who held more interest in certain ideas presented by the others, their excitement making Amy a bit nervous as she talked. Amy had just finished her introduction and the product she had brought with her. Their eyes darted between each other, and someone was about to speak up, but, to everyone's surprise, their boss stepped in. Attention now focused on him. "I hope everyone's doing well. I know you are all excited about the new faces, and as long as they do their jobs well, they will stay. Now, I know a few of our projects have been lost thanks to a few companies canceling our contracts." There was a heavy collective sigh among them, making him nod. "I know. I'm sorry. My father's still trying to ruin things. However, we won't let this shut us down or sway our determination. Now." Tyler's eyes moved to Amy. "With this new opening, I want Amy's product to take the forefront. Nothing against the other ideas. Please understand." One of the new hires spoke up. "By far, at least in my opinion, hers is the best thing among us." The others nodded, making Amy blush. She glanced towards Vince, who smiled proudly, winking at her. It only served to deepen the pink color flushing her cheeks. She said she'd be a professional, but was it going to be harder than she thought? The sound of Tyler's throat clearing brought her from her thoughts. She flinched slightly. When had he gotten so close? "Miss Pells, I hope we can make your product the best it can be, fulfilling your aspirations for it. Kevin told me you've had personal experience being stranded." He was holding out his hand, and she grasped it in a firm shake. "Yes. I hope to help those who need it, possibly saving lives. That is the dream I dare to dream." Tyler smiled. "Then let's do just that." His eyes lingered on her for a moment longer than anyone felt necessary before he turned. "Those of you working on finishing current products will continue to do so. Those of you who aren't will switch your full focus on Miss Pell's idea. Understood?" "Yes, sir," everyone said before they were released. Amy followed Kevin. They were going to go over plans to enhance her idea, implementing them into tests just to make sure everything worked as it should. Before they knew it, evening time had swooped in, and Amy was feeling a bit lightheaded. She'd been hyper-focused on the task at hand, and hadn't eaten since this morning. She pressed a hand against the wall, trying to stabilize herself. "I should have taken a break like Kevin said," she muttered as she pressed a hand to her temple. She had been feeling slightly warm all day. Was she sick? After a few minutes she felt better, but as soon as she looked up and took a step forward, the world wavered and tilted before her eyes, the edges growing dim. "Whoa there," a voice called before she was face first in someone's arms. "Miss Pells? Miss Pells? Amy!" The voice grew more distant before everything went dark. She didn't know how long she'd been passed out for. The sound of a beeping machine made her glance over. She saw Vince and Tyler both sitting in chairs, talking silently. "Where am I?" They both jerked upward when they heard her voice. "Amy! If you weren't feeling good, you should have said so." Vince's voice whined at her. "What?" She felt confused, her head pounding. She tried to sit up, but Tyler pressed her shoulder down. "Rest. Never have I had an employee collapse on me on their first day." Amy's face flushed. Vince hovered over her. "Do you have any idea how scared I was when Tyler rushed to me, carrying you in his arms? You were burning up. Your fever when you got to the hospital was 105. Not to mention they said you were anemic." Amy let out a soft sigh. "Sorry." "You have nothing to be sorry about, Miss Pels. Just rest if you aren't feeling well. You can talk to Kevin about the details of your product over a video call. I want you to stay home for a few days. I don't like my employees collapsing." Amy nodded, feeling a bit ashamed of herself. "I'll rest tomorrow and then be back in. I know part of my problem is I haven't been fully eating like I should. I've been dealing with a lot. The only proper meals I've been having are breakfast and dinner. But even then, I will admit I haven't been eating enough for those to skip lunch." Tyler nodded. "Then I'll make sure Kevin forces you away from your work from here on out. I don't need problems arising after just hiring you." Amy nodded. "I'll take my leave now. Vince, make sure she rests at home." Vince nodded. "Will do." They watched him leave before Amy buried her face in her hands, groaning. "I can't believe I did that." Vince sighed. "I thought you looked pale this morning. I should have added blueberries like I had been thinking." Amy let out a small sigh. "No, I should have been more mindful of my body. Can we leave?" He nodded. "I'll go fetch a doctor. Bright side, we don't have to worry about any doctor fees. Tyler paid for it, and said something about feeling like he was at fault for you collapsing, since he wanted you to start so soon. I told him that wasn't the case, but he insisted on paying." Vince's words about Tyler left a strange tingling sensation in the pit of Amy's stomach. She wasn't sure why, but it felt familiar. A few days later, Amy had been true to her word, focusing on resting up, eating properly, on top of having video calls with her team to make sure her absence didn't hold back progress. A multitude of people seemed amazed that she was willing to go through such lengths just to make sure they were on track. To be honest, they didn't have much to change on the product, only small details that needed refining. It made for faster progress and less arguments about what should or shouldn't be done. When the others heard of the full reason behind Amy's product, they were even more amazed and shocked. Most would have tried to put such an experience behind them and forget it. However, Amy was trying to make it so others didn't have to experience what she and many others had gone through, many of which didn't survive to share their tales. Now, Amy was feeling more nervous than ever. She found herself standing in front of a camera. When Kevin asked that she take the lead, she hadn't actually expected to become part of the introduction for the release. She stood in front of a table with a survival bottle sitting before her, Richard standing close by. His eyes put holes in the back of her head, as if he were ready to devour her. Amy had been happy to be gone for a bit, but now that she was here, she would really need to get used to that man's stare. It unnerved Amy to her core, somehow feeling familiar yet sickening all at once. And then there was Tyler. According to the whispers within the company, his closeness was unusual. His care had been more personal than what other employees got. Vince had come home complaining how Tyler had been asking if she was taking care of herself and eating like promised, not simply working all the time. She let out a heavy sigh before hearing someone call her name. "Hey, Amy?" Are you sure you are good? Her eyes snapped to focus, landing on Kevin as he reached out to rest a hand on her shoulder. Amy nodded. Yes, just a bit, well, nervous, I guess. First time I've ever done a TV live. I'm scared I'll ruin things. Kevin chuckled. You'll do just fine. Treat it like you're presenting the product to us again, though a bit more personal. Not to mention, they have the planned script on the monitor. You got this. Deep breaths. Amy nodded. Perhaps she was overthinking everything right now. Okay, deep breaths. She inhaled and exhaled a few times, and just like that, everything started. The top people from the company stood watching as Amy talked about when she'd been stranded on an island. They watched as Richard swooped in to show off his face along with the way the product works. Everything went according to plan, and evening rolled up on all of them like an unexpected guest. They'd been busy taking calls after the live show. It was shocking the amount of people who had called, not only to pre-order, but to donate. It seemed Amy's story had really sunk into people's hearts. Everyone was preparing to leave when Tyler showed up in the office, offering to take them all for dinner for proper celebration. Not only for the success of Amy's survival bottle, but to celebrate the new members, apologizing for the delay on the second part. No one had rejected the offer. They were excited to get free dinner and drinks. Amy and Vince had wanted to go home, but everyone told them the main event couldn't leave. The two of them ate with the others, actually having fun. Amy watched as Vince chatted with those under his care, her heart swelling with affection. He was a great leader, and it showed, though she didn't like how much he was drinking. She sighed, knowing it would end with her having to lug his weight home. She'd cut him some slack, though. It wasn't like he did this often. It seemed Vince wasn't the only one drinking a ton, though. Perhaps Tyler's true reason for offering this was just an excuse to drink as well. There were 4 empty mugs around him, and that made Amy frown with worry. The others didn't seem to notice. The girls were busy flirting with Richard, and the others were chatting with each other about how hard they worked and the efforts put in. Amy flinched when Tyler's eyes landed on her, and he caught her staring. His eyes held a strange warmth in them, and then he smiled, before confusion flickered through his eyes, and then he was frowning. She sighed once again, scooting over a seat to talk to him, mainly to tell him to stop drinking. He seemed a bit shocked by her sudden seat change. "Sir, you should stop," she said, having to speak louder with the loud chatter of the others. Tyler's eyes once again seemed to shift through the same phases of emotion. It confused Amy, but he scared her a bit when he shot up from his seat, mumbling something about getting fresh air. His sudden movement caught everyone's attention, and they watched him stumble out. There were a few confused mutters, and Amy's eyes landed on Vince, who gave her a half-smile and a nod, mouthing the words, "Go check on him." He knew exactly what she wanted to do. "Love you," she mouthed back before following Tyler out of the building. She found him leaned against a wall, smoking a cigarette. It wasn't something he did often. "Boss, you should probably head home. If you like, I can round everyone up and tell them it's all time to go home, either that or go drinking elsewhere on their own time." Tyler jumped at the sound of Amy's voice, dropping the cigarette. He stared at it for a moment, seeming unsure of looking up. "Sir?" Amy's voice, laced through his core, warmed him even more than the alcohol running through his system. It made his stomach flutter, and made his mind slip off into the dreams that had been haunting him. He stumbled slightly, and Amy was there in seconds. "See, this is why I said you should stop." But he couldn't help but giggle. He remembered this moment. Yes, the next thing he'd do. His eyes landed on the deep blues of Amy's. They were full of concern. "Let's get you over to that bench." His body moved, a tiny part of his mind screaming at him to stop, but his body ignored it. His lips crashed into Amy's lips. They felt as soft as he remembered. His tongue flicked across those soft lips. He expected her to open up. However, the next thing he knew, there was a sharp pain to his right cheek. His world tilted, and he found himself on the ground staring up at Amy, her face red with tears as she wiped at her mouth. "What do you think you're doing?" she stuttered. He felt lost, confused. But something seemed to sober him up, even if only a little bit. Was it her tears? The biting pain in the palm of his hands? Wait, Amy, His words slurred as she turned, leaving him on the ground. His stomach churned. What had just happened? What had he done? To be continued! Hello, hello. I know I'm still taking longer than I had hoped to get recording stuff done. I got sick and couldn't record, and now with summer break here, it's hard to do with a child running around. Either way, I hope you enjoy the start of the official spice for the story. Now everything will start to explode. I hope you look forward to it as much as I do. Until then, I'll see you next time. Bye!